If you have hard time retouching complex images inside of Photoshop, then this video is for you. I will show you how to retouch and clean up this lady's face from this look to this look easily. Let's get started. Before we begin guys, if you are new to the channel, please I recommend that you subscribe to this channel and like this video. If you subscribe and like the video, YouTube will help us recommend this video to more people, and you also encourage us to keep creating more content just like this. And if at all you have already subscribed to the channel, thank you for doing so, and let's begin. Now, once you have to retouch a complex image like this, you should start by patching the image. There are many ways you can patch an image inside of Photoshop. I think by now you should be familiar with the normal patch tool from the toolbar. Once we have the patch tool selected, we have the option to choose either source or destination. Let's choose destination first. Let me explain how this tool works. With destination selected on the options bar, what that allows you to do is that you can be able to sample a good portion by creating a lasso selection, then move that portion and replace the portion which has problems just like this. And the way the two portions will blend together will be determined by the diffusion option here. I'll press Ctrl+Z to go back. Then let's say we choose source from here. Then in that case, we have to start by selecting the portion which has problem, then move the mouse inside and simply drag outside to a portion that has similar pixels to that particular portion, like this one here, and then just release the mouse and they blend in so nicely. Let me undo that one more time because there is another method I need to show you. I don't see this very often. One other tool I also use to patch images inside of Photoshop is the normal lasso tool. So I usually select the lasso tool and set the feather option to 3. The reason I'm setting a feather option to 3 or 4 is so that I do not have very sharp edges. Once I create a lasso selection, the edges will become softer, that's what I mean. So with the lasso option set to this value, what that allows me to do is I can create a lasso selection around this portion which seems to be okay. Then on the normal layer, I'll jump this selection by pressing Ctrl+J. Now we have a little thumbnail preview here. If at all you cannot see it, then click on these 3 buttons here, then choose panel option. Enable layer bars from here and you should be able to have a similar view to this. Then another thing I do is that I right click on this layer and convert it to a smart object. Then I'll take the move tool and make sure auto select is not turned on. Then since the layer is selected, I will now be able to move it and replace the portion which has problems. And if at all the pixels do not align, since we already have a new layer, I can press Ctrl+T to transform it, and I can be able to rotate it around as you can see to make sure the pixels actually match. Sometimes I might be able to right click and then choose warp, and then I can be able to click on these handles and pull the pixels around to make sure that everything is exactly the way I want it to be. So by dragging these handles, it gives you the possibility to stretch the pixels, and because we have them converted to a smart object, we are not actually destroying the pixels because we can always undo that change. These are just some of the methods I use when patching an image inside of Photoshop. Once I'm done with the patching, I usually use the spot healing brush tool to soften things up as I might do in the next process. So enough of this talking, let's revert the image by going to File and then choosing Revert. And then obviously, let's start by duplicating the background because we don't want to work on the original. I'll press Ctrl+J, then hide the normal copy. And right now I'll use the normal patch tool and set the option bar to source, and then I'll begin to patch the image to fix it and see you when the whole process is over. Now, I have taken some time to clean up the lady's face. Let's see the before and after. This is how it was from the beginning. With all the patching and healing, this is what I'm able to get right now, which is very cool. I think I need to get rid of this spot right here, so I will just do that quickly. It's okay. Now, on the layer 3, let's rename it to color, and let's add one copy of it by pressing Ctrl+J. Let's rename this one to texture. Select the texture layer and press Ctrl+I to invert it. Then right click and convert it to a smart object. Then change its blending mode to vivid light. Then let's group the two layers by clicking here, and I'll just rename this to high pass. I'll expand the group, then select the texture layer we converted to a smart object. Then I'll go to filter, blur, and choose Gaussian blur. I'll input a radius of 1, click OK. Then I'll go again to filter, order, and then add high pass. And I'll input a radius of 10 here and click OK. If you look here, you can see that the two filters came with one mask. This mask is not very useful, so let's collapse this by clicking here. Then with the texture layer selected, let's click on this camera icon to add a mask to it. Currently the mask is white, which means all the effects are visible. To invert the mask, select it and then press Ctrl+I. Switch to the brush tool and reduce the flow of the brush to 5%. Click here and choose a soft brown brush. By reducing the flow of the brush, you will be able to paint several times before you actually see the result. Since the mask is black, you notice that the foreground is also black, which means it will paint, we are not going to have any result. So press the X key to swap the foreground and background color. Now the foreground is white, which means it will paint. We are going to reveal all the filters we have added here. Let's do exactly that. I'll just paint here to even out the colors, and I will not do this to extreme because I still want to keep some of this texture here. Since this portion is my main target, I will actually lift the flow up to 53% and pin here to have quick result just like this. I think that's too much. Let's take it down. Just trying to even out this section. That's what I'm doing right now. Alright, let's come to the layers panel and let's just toggle here to see the before and after. So I think it's getting better right now, but for sure there is a lot of work that needs to be done, but we are almost there. Since I'm comfortable with the result I have on the screen so far, I am going to create a stamp visible layer of everything I can see right now. To do that, press Ctrl Alt Shift and A on the keyboard. Now I can hide these layers here. And then I'll just rename this to frequency separation because that's actually what I need to do at this step. I'll rename it to FS, frequency separation. And the main purpose of this is to actually even out the skin tones because as you can see right here, we have these patches which are too dark than the surrounding. So frequency separation is actually going to even out those skin tones. So with the frequency separation layer selected, I'll go to my actions panel and I created these actions already. I will leave a link in the video description if you want to check them out. You can just download, it's free. So I'll click on auto detect, which is going to detect whether my image is 8-bit or 16-bit and perform the necessary action. And then I'll just click here. Since I had this layer selected, the action automatically duplicated two layers and renamed them appropriately. I think I'll just increase the radius slider up slightly until I can be able to even out those colors. And also I don't want to go to a portion like if I just take it up to 23, I completely blur away everything. That's not what I want. I want to be able to see her eyes, her lips and so on. So I'll just take this down to 8 and see. That's too much. What of 6? Again, 6 is too much. I'll settle with 5 and just click OK. It completed everything automatically for me. So if you want to download this action, I'll leave a link in the video description for you to download from my Google Drive. I'll minimize this panel, and since the low frequency or the color layer is already selected, let's reduce the size of the brush. It's too big. And the way I program this action is for it to automatically pick the mixer brush. If not, come here and select the mixer brush too. Then make sure this button here is not checked. Then keep this button turned on. Set the weight to 8 and maintain the settings here. I always prefer to leave the high frequency turned on, because if I disable this layer, I won't actually see how to mix these colors well with the highlights and shadows going on. So I'm going to turn on this layer, but make sure the low frequency or the color layer is selected. I'll paint where the highlights are and actually blend the colors together right now. So again, see you when this process is over. Alright, welcome back guys. Now the painting process is over. Let's see the before and after again. So here it is. On the new frequency separation group, you can see that most of the colors have been evened out. I'll just group this group and this layer, and I'll just rename it to frequency separation, just like so. Now the retouching phase is over. Let's actually add some color grading to the image to make it pop. Make sure the foreground color is black and the background is white, or you can just press the Z key on the keyboard. Then with the frequency separation layer here selected, what I'll do is I'll click on the new adjustment layer icon and choose gradient map. You can see that it automatically picks the foreground and background color here. And then I'll clip it to make sure it affects just what is within this group. For the Alt key, that will be the option key I'm clicking between here. Then I'll change its blending mode to soft light. The effect is too much, so let's take its opacity down to 30%. Just like so. Then I'll click here again and choose the levels adjustment. I'll also clip it to make sure it affects just the layer below it. Then I'll increase the highlights. Just like so. To make sure I retain just the color, I'll click on the blending mode and choose color blending mode from here. Now just the color is retained, as you can see. Let's go to the properties again, and then let's toss. That looks good right now. Then let's reduce its opacity to 50%. Let's click on the new adjustment layer icon again, and let's choose color lookup. I'll click here to clip it. Then I'll click inside here and choose Clips 1. Since the effect is too strong, I'll reduce its opacity to 20%. You can see the difference. Then the last adjustment I'm going to add is selective color. I'll click here and choose selective color way at the bottom here. I'll also clip it, and then I'll click on the color and make sure the reds are chosen. I'll reduce the cyan to -39, press the tab key and input -41, press the tab key and input 18. I think let's adjust the magenta. I'll take it to 25, or I think let's just make it -20 to have this look here. Then with the top adjustment layer here selected, I'll hold the shift key and click on the one at the bottom here. Then I'll group them and call it adjustments. Let's toggle to see the before and after. This is the before and this is the after. If the effect is too much, we can tune the opacity from here, but I'm going to leave this to 100%. One thing with the adjustments is that they also affected the eyes and the nails and so on. In this case, I just want the eyes to be visible. So I'll select the adjustment layer or the adjustment group right here, then add a mask to it by clicking here. Then since the mask is selected and it is white, it means all the adjustments are visible. Since we need to remove the adjustments from the eyes, let's switch to the brush tool. And let's work with a soft round brush. Let's reduce the flow. I'll reduce the brush and then gradually paint here to get rid of these portions. Nothing is working because the foreground is also white. Let's press the X key to make sure the foreground is black. Let's hide the adjustment layers from here. Now let's increase the flow. It doesn't really matter. By doing all these steps, guys, we have finally come to an end. Now I will simply select all these layers here and group them. I'll just rename the whole group to final. Let's compare the final version with the original version. This is the before and this is the after. So much difference. The good thing about this is that her eyes are still there. If you look closely under her cheek here, the shadows are still there the way they were from the beginning. The only thing we have done is clean up her face and then color graded the image. So that is how you can easily retouch a complex image inside of Photoshop. Thank you so much for following this tutorial to the end. I hope you found it very interesting, and if you did, we will be happy to hear from you in the comments. Thank you, and I'm going to see you in the next one tomorrow. Bye bye.